Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth webinar of the 18th Social Entrepreneurship for Innovation in Health course. We'll pause for some time for everyone to get into the session. It's just a recommendation. If you're able to see us on the screen, please recommend your peers who are still not able to see us to refresh their browsers. Also, don't forget to take the survey that you find below the screen that asks you, are you watching live? Please click yes to get your extra credit points. Please note that this survey is not going to appear on your page if you're watching a recording. Okay, let's get started. Welcome to our weekly live webinar once again, and the theme of our conversation for today is co-creation and leveraging shared value, which is also the theme of this week's module. Before we dive into our conversation with our guest expert for today, an important reminder. Please note that this week you have an assignment submission which we recommend you to prioritize so that you can get your feedback from the facilitators. Also, Module 4 and 5 are about co-creation, where you are able to review real-world and potential co-creation proposals spearheaded by health innovators. So I'm sure that it's going to be a great experience for you to read about them and then also share your insights through the assignments. And before we start the session, just a reminder, don't forget to drop your question for our guest expert in the discussion forum below the screen, and we will take them during the span of the session. And now join me to welcome Dr. Kayode Femi to this session. Dr. Kayode Femi is an Ashoka Fellow and a veterinarian working towards building a system of animal healthcare and disease prevention in Nigeria. In 2019, Dr. Kayode co-launched Farm Alert to enable easy access to affordable animal healthcare for underserved communities in Nigeria. Dr. Kayode is a doctor of veterinary medicine and also the youngest elected board member of Veterinary Council of Nigeria, which is a government regulatory agency. He's a visionary leader with more than a decade of dedicated experience in veterinary sciences, and he is also very passionate about animal care. Dr. Kayode, welcome to the session, and thank you for joining us today. It's an honor and pleasure for us to host you today.
Thank you so much, Indrina, and it's also good to be here for the second time in a row. My pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Kayode. Dr. Kayode, we have a set of questions where we want to learn from you about your experience of co-creation and shared value. But before that, we would like to start the session with a question to you to share a little bit about your journey as a social entrepreneur and what inspired you to get started.
All right, so thank you, Indrina. I'm going to share the same story I shared last year. About the family I came from. So I came from a traditional Nigerian family where everybody wants his or her son or daughter to do well. So, and there are typical courses you could read in the university that will make your parent to relax and said, oh, he's going to do well, like medicine, human medicine to be particular, maybe a pilot, an engineer. So I wanted to be a human doctor. I thought that way I would gain a lot of relevance, and of course, my parents will be happy. So I did JAM. JAM is a traditional exam you write in Nigeria to get into the higher institution. And I saw VT. VT is an abbreviation for veterinary medicine. So I really didn't know much about veterinary medicine. So I asked someone, what's VT? And he said, veterinary medicine. I said, what's veterinary medicine? He said, I'm going to be an animal doctor. Of course, my parents were not pleased with it. So I asked them, let me continue and do JAM again and take the exam again. I did that again, and then I saw VT again. So someone told me I was probably destined to be an animal doctor. So here am I, 20 years after. I'm super proud and excited. I've been able to touch a lot of lives in ways that you can only imagine. I'm part of a lot of people's family, part of a lot of people's livelihood, and I have no regrets.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, and certainly the problem that you have identified and the solution that you're offering is certainly so relevant. I'm sure that this is a great journey. Thank you for sharing that context. And I would request you to now share the story of founding Farm Alert. What does the organization do? I know you have a presentation. Please feel free to use the screen.
All right, so I'm going to just share a brief, share my screen and then just tell you what we do in Parmalat and briefly. So, but while my screens are coming up, just a moment.
We can see it.
Very beautiful. So
Perfect.
I work with an organization, Parmalat. I co-founded it and I'm serving as a CEO, but a funny story, if you will. So when I finished school, I graduated among the top of my class because, you know, I came from a family that always believed whatever it is that you're doing, do it very well. So despite I really didn't like veterinary medicine, I excelled in it. So I started working in a consulting firm because I thought maybe I could impact a lot of people by building a good business. I didn't think veterinary medicine was going to be part of it. So one day, my boss came in while I was serving as an office assistant, came in because he got a call from one of his friends that her birds are dying. She took a loan and the birds were dying. And he said, come to think of it, Femi, you're a veterinary doctor. I said, yes. He said, I have a friend who took a loan, got some birds, and the birds are dying. That you know what to do. I got to visit the farm. So first of all, people's livelihood are attached to livestock in Africa. You cannot separate that. I saw the pain. She was falling sick. But fortunately for her, I recognized what was wrong. I prescribed a few medications here and there. And then in 3 days' time, the mortality dropped to almost zero.
Wow.
And overnight, I became a superstar, right? From an office assistant to a superstar. She called me, she thanked me, she talked to our community about what I did. And for a second, I thought there could be a real opportunity in this. If I really want to touch lives, I think doing what I know how to do best, knowing that there are just about 6,000 veterinary doctors in the country, maybe I could make an impact. So that's where we came up with Parmalat. So the population of Nigeria, it's around 220 million. It's going to double to 400 million in 2050. The smallholder farmers, about 38 million, and they're going to double. But please pay attention because these smallholder farmers are the lifeline of our local food system. If anything affects them, it affects the local food system. It affects, to a large extent, families that depend on this livestock, and it could affect the entire nation. 97% of these smallholder farmers depends on agrovet stores. These agrovet stores, they lack capital, they lack business trainings, they are fragmented with little economics of scale, they're exposed to fake and substandard drugs, they have poor animal health infrastructure, so unavailability of some of these products that could help these livestock farmers is abundant. This defect causes a colossal loss of over $3 billion in annual loss income for farmers due to disease that are highly preventable. And that brings me to my initial story. This local farmer was losing a livestock for something that can be resolved. So we came up with a concept, a distribution model concept, that if we could help these agrovet stores or these veterinary stores to aggregate their needs and make it available quickly and cheaply through our distribution centers, then we could improve animal health care by 50%. More importantly, we could help these farmers that are the lifeline of our local food system. So our solution became very simple in Parmalat: to leverage technology to aggregate the animal health needs of veterinary extension shops nationwide and deliver it quickly and cheaply through our network of distribution center while maintaining quality. Quality is an important word in the African ecosystem because farmers could spend their livelihood buying something that is substandard and still lose their entire savings or lose their farms. And because we're professionals, we are well equipped to guarantee this quality. All right, so currently we're supporting a network of over 300 veterinary extension shops, serving over 70 farmers and pet owners we're saving over 100 million worth of livestock annually through our intervention. We're improving the livelihood of farmers across the country by 20% in the communities that were present. We have partners, private partners, and we're going to be talking about this in our shared valued curriculum. The animal health shops, the importers, the manufacturers, big farmers. We have government partners, which we design policies, and we also have international partners such as Ashoka that helps us do what we do. In conclusion, we see ourselves as a central nervous system in animal health in Africa. We're doing the thinking, building the network with the help of independent veterinary extension workers to reach every single farmers and pet owners, and by extension, the nation as a whole. And we're inviting you to join us. I'm an Ashoka Fellow, and I'm happy to be part of this curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing all the details about Farm Alert and how did you set up Farm Alert. I'm still going to come back to a very foundational question. When you started Farm Alert, what were the key support systems that you depended on? What did your ecosystem look like?
So for startups in Africa, it's slightly always tough. But, you know, as I tell people, successful people are not self-made, right? You need support. If you're self-made, then you're doing something small. If you want to do something systemic, you really need a network of people. Because just like you're cooking a soup or a stew, depending on what you call it in your part of the world, you need salt, you need ingredients.
Yes.
A soup in itself is not self-made. It's a combination of other people's kindness and support system, right? So I could be a vet. Without the farmers, I'm jobless. I could be a social entrepreneur. Without the problem existing in the community, my use will not be seen. I could see a problem. I could have the solution. Without the help of people who have products that could solve the problem, it's still going to mean very little. Because one of the critical issues that we have also in Africa is that as a vet, you could go into a community, know there's a problem with a particular, like bird flu. You will understand that this thing can destroy the entire farm. But if you don't have product support from big farmers that has done research and has invested in those research, you will still be isolated. You're not self-made. You will need a host of support. And proudly, Farm Alert has a host of support from product to people to policies. Those support systems are going to be needed. Even as an entrepreneur, your job role is not enough without looking at the people that connect with that job role that makes a bigger picture achievable. You're never an island. So you are going to be needing support, and we have a lot of them. I'm happy to say that we have a lot of them in Farm Alert, and that's why we're this successful.
I really loved that quote. You said that successful people are not self-made; they depend on support system. That's a unique quote. I will say thank you for sharing that, Dr. Kayode. As I mentioned right in the beginning of this session, that this week our course module is focusing on co-creation and leveraging shared value. So I'm going to start my question to you around this concept with a very fundamental question around, like, what does co-creation mean to you? What does shared value mean to you?
All right, so co-creation, shared value. So I'm deeply connected with this topic for a few reasons. Looking back at the journey of Farm Alert, we have had several points where if it were not the co-creation process, the product we have now will not be successful or will not be this impactful. So co-creation simply means you're bringing other people's uniqueness into your uniqueness and making something super unique. So I'm a veterinarian. I started off as a veterinary doctor. I have the technical expertise. Right? I could understand the problem. I could solve the problem, but I need others to join me so that the process could be effective in the farms or among the communities we want this to be effective. So the process of co-creation simply means that you have other creators. Yeah. And what you're doing is simply coming together to ensure that the impact one person can make is the impact everybody can make is way more than the impact one person can make. And the issue around shared value is because you could have co-creators. So I'm here, you're here, and we could all be creators, but we will have to share a common goal.
Yes.
So let me give you an instance. So I'm a veterinary doctor, and you could be creating something that has to do with space, right? My people in my community will not understand so much what Elon Musk is doing.
Sorry, Dr. Kayode, I'm not able to hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you, yes.
Okay, all right. So let's say you're a creator, I'm also a creator, and you're building something that has to do with going to Mars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm building something that has to do with that the community survives based on what they are used to, right? If we are all creators and we could come together to co-create, we will have to have a common goal. It's my network good? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can. Are you able to hear me?
All right. So the principle around co-creation. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
But I need to be sure you can hear me. So the principle around shared value simply means that we will have to bring individual genius to solve a common problem. So co-creation means that you're coming together, different people with unique strengths to do something. Shared value means that we're bringing in this individual or unique strength to solve a common problem. And that's where shared value comes in.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you likely touched on my next question that I was about to ask you about principles of co-creation. Of course, I asked you for like, what does it mean to you? But yeah, you already spoke about principles of co-creation. Do you have an example to quickly elaborate on the principle of co-creation?
All right, so maybe let me just state it maybe in a very simple and clear terms, right? There are about 3 or 4 principles of co-creation I want everybody to just get clearly. The first is that you have to be clear. So if you're not clear on what is important to you, there's really no need to start meeting other co-creators. What do we want to achieve? We want this community to be better, and we want their livestock to be improved. In co-creation, the first thing is for you to be clear on what you want to achieve, your goal. Right? Be clear. The second thing is that you have to be sure of the value that brings all of you together. As I stated in my initial story, if your value or what you want to achieve is not aligning, regardless of your genius, it will not work. So you have to be clear on your goal. You have to be sure on your shared value. And that's very important because people get frustrated when values are not aligning. Because they know that this person can do so well, but we're not doing so much because our values are not aligning. The third principle I want to quickly share is that you have to be there. If you're co-creating on a single goal, can you hear me?
Yes.
You have to play your own part. You have to play your own part. So be clear, be sure, be there. Because if I'm co-creating with Indrani and I don't play my own part, it doesn't work.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think I'll just like to mention
Right.
to
So I
all
need
the
to be
people
sure
who
that
are watching
you're
us,
there.
there is a technical lag. So please, if you're not able to, if you can hear some lag, please continue to watch. It's a technical glitch.
Okay, so
Dr. Kayode.
just give me maybe I'm thinking maybe I should quickly change my network. Let me change my network. Just a moment.
No problem.
All right, so I changed my network. Is it any clearer now?
It is, it is. I think you were not able to hear me sometimes. So,
Yeah.
and I was not able to hear you completely sometimes, but it's okay. Thank you everyone for your patience. And there's a slight technical glitch which Dr. Kayode has solved. Go ahead, Dr. Kayode.
All right. So I said we're talking about principles of co-creation.
Yes.
And I said, number one, you have to be clear on
Yeah.
what you want to achieve.
Yes.
Second, I said you have to be sure that you share similar values,
Values.
both short
Yes.
term and long term. It's
Yes.
important.
Yes.
Then the third, I said you have to be there. You have to play your own part.
Yes.
So if I'm a genius and you're a genius and one person doesn't play his or her own part, it still doesn't work. And I think the last thing I want to talk about on the principle is that you have to be flexible. And I'm going to be talking about when you're dealing with multiple stakeholders. So be flexible on approach, not necessarily on goals, right?
Got it.
Because you could have a way. We've changed our model quite a bit when we started. When we started, we wanted to solve a systemic problem, but we were building retail centers and serving the farmers directly. When we built number one, number two, number three, it was clear that this approach was going to take forever.
Yes.
And we were now going into communities where there are other veterinarians that were doing the same thing and felt threatened about our coming to that community. And we're having a hard time telling them that, hey, we're together, we're coming together to solve the same problem. But they thought that we're going to come in and display them out of the business that they are in. So we changed the approach. So rather than coming into a community to serve the farmers directly, we say, okay, we meant it, we're friends. Right now, we're going to focus on helping you so that you can help the farmers. Our goals are the same, our impacts even much more larger, but we have changed our approach. So you have to be flexible because when you meet other stakeholders, and you will meet people who think differently, that their difference is against what you think should work, doesn't mean that they are wrong. So you have to be flexible on approach, not necessarily on your goals. So those are the key principles I think will work in co-creation.
Lovely. So just to repeat once again, the core principles of co-creation for you is like a 4-point important principles. One is to be clear about goals, to be sure about the value of working together, be present and play your own role, and be flexible of doing things, not changing the goal. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm going to move to another aspect of co-creation, and that is the importance of different stakeholders or the relationship that you build with them, essentially partnerships. That's what we call partnerships. So I would like to ask you, how have you approached partnerships with different stakeholders, say companies, government, social organization, communities? What has been your approach to partnerships?
All right. So for us, I think we basically have like 3 approaches to partnership. First of all, we partner product partnership. And I'll explain product. So the farmers have unique problems. Most often they are disease related.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are training related, education. But for those that are disease related, farmer doesn't manufacture. We don't manufacture any drugs. So what we do is to partner with private organizations who manufacture specific solutions to their problem. Right. And we partner with them and say, hey, we vet their product, we partner with them, and we introduce those products to the community. So it's important that you have a tool to solve the problem you want to solve. And that's an important part of it. The second partnership we have are policy partnership. And this is very important because you could have the product to solve and you could know what to do with those products. You could gain the trust of the community. And then a government policy comes in and says, this community is out of bound. You cannot do anything in this community. And it happens even in organizations as entrepreneurs. You could have an idea, you know what to do to solve it, and then you get a message, an email from the CEO and says that we are not solving this problem, everybody should ignore it. Right. So I try as much as possible in Famila to be relevant across lines, especially around people who make policy decisions. Like I do that intentionally because I know your genius can be destroyed by just a single policy. If the problem is important to you, people don't like office politics, and I'm not saying you should play them, right? But if you want to co-create, the people who are making policies, you have to partner with them.
Yes.
In Africa, so you could play your own role, work so hard, but your boss has to notice you in a way that you can influence the decision that matters to you. So you have to. The third are the people partnership. Some don't have the product, some don't make the policies, but they know people who make the product or who make the policies. Right? We intentionally network with people with a measure of influence. Community leaders. Like community leaders. You have the product. There's a favorable government policies. And yet an influential member of the community who don't have the product, who don't make the policy, just keep telling people that, no, this person we don't trust, that he run away from this particular partnership, it will still not work. So in Farmlab, we approach our partnership in 3: product, policies, and people. And we take that very well.
The 3P approach you take: people, policy, and product.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I think you already addressed a few things that you just spoke about. A lot of entrepreneurs have this question, like, I have an idea, but what to do if, my bosses or my managers are not paying attention to it? So nice that you spoke about like finding a champion, finding your alliances. That's important. We have a question that has also come from one of our participants who are watching us live, Rachel Weaver. Rachel is asking, what were your main challenges to reach local farmers?
So it wasn't so much of a challenge. I think the biggest challenge is earning their trust. So farmers, if they're existing farmers, some of them have done this business for 10 years, 20 years, people will come into those communities and because they want to sell products, not really to help them. Some even go to the extent of, they know that the product wouldn't work that much, but they are under sales pressure. So they speak all the big English to the farmers, do all what they need to do, and get the farmer to release their hard-earned money, give them products that doesn't work, and the farmer still loses. So you go to a community and they remember those experiences and they are cautious, they're close. So the bad peoples destroy the road for good people to make their way. So we take it easy. We come in, we establish, we tell them we're here to stay. If they have a local veterinarian, we work with them, we interact. There's what we call stakeholders engagement. We do that before even our presence. Sometimes it can take us 3 to 6 months to engage the local farmers on a level that they can trust before we now start solving their problem. Because if you're bringing a solution, the person whose problem you want to solve need to believe that you have his or her best interest in that. And that's the most difficult part. once we can establish that, then everything becomes easy for us.
Great. Trust building is an important part of co-creation. Just because we're talking about challenges, I also wanted to ask you, do you have other challenges that you encounter in the process of co-creation?
So it's managing different interests.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think that's one of the, we have a few challenges, but managing different interests. And I'll give you an example. You're going into a community that has a problem and you have the solution.
Mm-hmm.
You engage with the stakeholders, oh, we like it, thank you for coming to the community. But then they want something more, like they want a particular percentage of whatever it is that you sell. Some community leaders, unfortunately, also don't have the best interests of their people, but somehow they are leaders. And they come with various mix of the co-creation process that can stall the process that improves the community. Now, if you're young and naive, you fight them outright. Once you fight them outright, you lose the entire thing. Because they own the community, they are community leaders, they know the stories to tell, and then they will not buy into you. So with experience now, we sit down with them. Can you hear me?
I can.
The most difficult part of the co-creation process is and that's why I said you have to be clear on what your central goal is as one of the principles. You always have to have that in mind. And the last principle I said, you have to be flexible. Can you hear me?
There was a bit of lag. Lag. Yeah.
All right. So another thing is you have to be flexible. In the last, I was listening to the recap of what we did last year, and I said, you have to listen. Once you're co-creating, you have to understand not just your own interest, but other people's interests. Because that alone can scuffle the entire process. So managing the interest of the various co-creators about the most difficult for us. But once it is perfectly done, you will have a smooth process.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those challenges and also the way to kind of overcome those challenges. We have another question that has come from Zahidi, and Zahidi is asking, what do you think about businesses what role do you think businesses have in creating a better world for everyone?
All right. So, when I started learning business, and, I went to a seminar that said the purpose of a business is to make profits. You cannot be that wrong, right?
Yeah.
You cannot be that wrong. Businesses are evolving. Those who have that school of thought don't last that long. So a business is part of a community, right? If the community is not successful, the business will be sooner or later be out of business. So what I think the role of a business is, right? First of all, is to be, be part of a community and be concerned about their issues. So I think the definition of a business is finding a problem to solve and solving it profitably. Or if you want me to use the word sustainably. So the purpose of a business cannot be to make profit. You will miss it. You will harm the community. You will degrade the environment. At the end of the day, everybody gets bitter, you make money. Let's hope you are happy with money alone, right? It's difficult to be happy with money alone. So once we for every community we establish our distribution center, our primary goal is what are the critical issues the farmers are facing?
Mm-hmm.
Who are the veterinarians that are here?
Mm.
What do they lack? What do they need? And how do we make this sustainable? Once we're able to approach our business from that lens of what are the needs, what are the problems, how can we solve this sustainably, a business emerges, but not just a business that emerges. It's a business that is connected deeply to the society or to the community in which it's founded. And then there's this joy that you have at the end of the day that you're doing something impactful. So in summary, a business is not to make profit. A business is to find a problem that you can genuinely solve. And I use the word genuinely solve because some people find problem and they want to take advantage of it. Care about the problem. Find solutions to it. And if it means that much to you, creativity will come. Creativity comes from genuine love. Right.
Yes.
So why am I this passionate about Farmalot and what I do? I see that for every problem I solve, a family gets better or multiple family gets better. So that interests me, that fascinates me, and that brings out the creativity. We love come in a lot of creativity. So you're there in the community as a business, not to make profit, but to solve a real problem sustainably.
Great. So I'm sure Zahidi is going to love this answer that business is not business as we see it. Business is really a solution to a problem. So of course, it is a process of creating a better world. We also have another question, which was also my question. Aditya Chilka is asking, what type of partnerships are you going to prioritize for future?
What type of partnership?
What kind of partnerships will you prioritize for future? What does your partnerships look like in future, especially because now you're established, you're expanding. So what kind of partnerships are you looking at?
So let me say partnership also evolves, right? And they evolve with the stage at which you are, and they change. So they still have the same fundamental principle, but they could change with time. So the way we are now, initially when we started, and that's why you also need to rank partnerships. When we started, product partnership was about the top on our list. So we want to solve the farmer's problem. As we grew and we were becoming known, then we noticed that if policies are not properly shaped, like I intentionally joined forces with government agencies. Now, we go to their office, they come to our office. And for us at this stage, the policy part of it, it's an important piece. And we prioritize it now. Now, the people partnership comes along the way. You cannot outgrow that. Just that the quality or the kind of people you need at every stage also evolve.
Yes.
So when you are starting up, you will want maybe a local leader. But the way it is in Africa, if you have the nudge, like right now, we're trying to forge an intentional partnership formula with the president of the country. We have a partnership with the minister, and that makes a lot of things easy. But the minister is also subject to the president. If the president says, I don't have anything to do with this, your good idea, regardless of whatever it is, you will not succeed. So rather than say, what are the kind of partnership, I would just want to say probably the quality of partnership as you proceed evolves and it becomes bigger. So for us in the future, what kind of partnership? We're looking at partnership with the president, with the African Union, because by next year, we will now be scaling across Nigeria to other countries, bringing the same solution, trying to help farmers. We will not change our core mission. Our core mission is to see that farmers in every community have the best of product, have it cheaper, and have it quality, that quality is not compromised. But if you're going to be moving to Ghana, if you're going to be moving to Zambia, then you need more than local leaders.
Yes.
You need maybe better policy decision makers, and that's what I think about it. So it evolves with time.
Completely agree with you, especially on the policy alliance part of it. It is very important that once you establish a business that's working in a community, that you have conducive policies to make sure that you're able to scale and achieve what you want. And responsible business, which is also part of the sustainable development goals, also is addressing that arena. I'll also take another question that's come up from the audience, and that is about One Health is an integrated approach to optimize health for people, animal, and environment. What do you think about it?
I think that's absolutely very correct. we're too, so the approach now for us in Farmland, we've redesigned a few of our approach. And we have a national campaign that's starting next week. And what's the national campaign about? It's One Health. So I went to see a mentor of mine. Her grandson got sick.
Okay.
And, while we're in the hospital, the doctors were very confused. They said they've used all the antibiotics that they know how to use and they have available, and none is working. And she was almost losing her grandson.
Oh.
I called one of the doctors aside. I said, is this antimicrobial resistance a common problem? They said they have it. That right now they know what to do, but they don't have drugs that works anymore. So I got home that day, I opened up my laptop and I researched, did a lot of research. Because I already know my farmers, they irresponsibly use antibiotics. So what I was trying to find out is, what kind of antibiotics are in eggs? What kind of antibiotics are in beef? What kind of antibiotics are in chicken? And I got almost like 15 articles, and there's no egg, virtually zero egg that is free of antibiotics, zero chicken that's free of antibiotics in Nigeria, and zero that is free of antibiotics in our cattle. Then I go to farms, they collect DOC from day one to the end, they're using antibiotics. So the campaign we want to do beginning from next month is Safe Farms, Healthy Community. We're in the same place. Anything that affects animals, by the way, 75% of evolving reemerging disease are from animal origin. So I'm not sure if Farmland is an animal health social enterprise. I jokingly told my people, it's a One Health organization, because anything we do on the farm goes to people's stomach. Anything that goes into people's stomach is part of the public. And so there's very little or zero way of separating what we do. So I firmly believe in the One Health concept. And I think the more conversations we have, human, animal, environment, around this topic, the more we collaborate, the better our world.
Oh, great. And it's a great relevant point that you highlighted. Livestock are absolutely assets for farmers. That is something everybody knows, that, like you have farmers own land, they also own livestock, and that is financial asset for them. And now we get to know that there is a full circle. If you have a livestock that we consume, then certainly it's part of One Health. Okay, so Dr. Kayode, I'm going to shift our gear to another aspect of entrepreneurship and co-creation, and that is going to be around managing risk. Managing risk is both an important aspect for entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. So how do you manage risk as an entrepreneur, and what advice you have for our learners to overcome resistance to innovation in their institutions?
Yeah. So, I have a funny approach to risks, right? I tell people to expect failure. So risk factors are things that could potentially hamper your co-creation process. To not expect and prepare for it is to guarantee failure. So you will always have risks. Waking up, there are risks. There could be bombs anywhere. It's in everything we do. So expect it, prepare and plan for it. So the first thing I try to tell people around risks is that identify it. So risk identification. If you don't know something is risky, it will be difficult to control it. So you have to recognize the risk factor. Majority of people working in Pharma are slightly honest, but as our team grows, I realized that there are habits that could bring us down. And sometimes I train, so we have 3 vice presidents. I let them know. So I had a business initially that failed because of dishonesty. So dishonest people are risks. People who do extreme politics are risks because they could destroy an entire thing, even in an organization, just because it doesn't suit their narrative or it doesn't suit their purpose. Don't fight it, recognize it. And that's the first critical thing you have to do. Once you're able to understand that this thing can pull you down, the next thing is to be able to analyze the risks, like rank them. There are some risks that are manageable. There are some that you can't really just manage. You have to let go. You identify, you analyze it. And analysis comes with maturity. There are people in our organization, I know that if you put them in certain position, it will jeopardize a lot of things. I identified them, I analyzed it, and I rank it. Will this work? Won't this work? There are people that if you bring them in an organization and share your idea at first, that idea is dead on arrival. There are some people that before you even state the ideas in board meetings, you have to go and see them. Because if you don't get their buy-in, and you know that those people in that organization, once they give a nod to an idea, it's easy for you. There are risk factor that you will need to identify, analyze. Then the third thing is you manage them. There's some people you have to put in more effort to get on board. And you don't start until they're on board. If they're not on board, it's uphill. If they're on board, it's smooth sail. So knowing that they could have a huge impact on your idea, you have to manage them. Do whatever it is to have them on board. Some in Africa, you tell them, like there was a particular minister, the former minister, I told him, I said, sir, we will not start this thing until your endorsement. He now laughed. He said, this? Because some people want to just feel a sense of importance. And that's very important. This sense of recognition and importance. I don't know how it is in India or in Europe. It's very important in Africa. You have to go and meet some people and tell them that this project can only succeed with your signature. And you're willing to wait until their signature is there. If you achieve that and they buy in, they can take up the fight on your behalf. So, number one, you identify, you analyze, you manage. And your ability to manage those risks puts you on a very good pedestal. Thank you. Okay, maybe lastly, you evaluate, right? And this is very important because some things will work. Some things will not work. If it doesn't work, you learn. So you have to come back. Okay, my approach to this person didn't work. Why didn't it work? I know I failed, but again, how can I get it better? My 15 years now as a vet, so I'm not 1 year, I'm not 2 years. So most of my decisions are slightly better, not because I know what to do, it's because I failed before. So, and I know that this approach will not work. This approach is better. And with that failure comes my level of evaluation so that my next move will probably be better. So Risks are there. You will encounter them. Don't run away from them. It's part of the process. In fact, embrace failure, embrace them, but learn how to identify them, learn how to analyze them properly, which is very important. Learn how to manage or control them. At the end of the day, you sit down and evaluate. Has it worked? If it has worked, then you learn, you apply yourself. If it hasn't worked, then you learn and move on.
You mentioned some very important skills around advocacy. So advocacy essentially is to kind of, look at systems and look at improvements or kind of, reframing of systems. But advocacy can be practiced even as an entrepreneur, even as a team member. So thank you for that question. We have one big question for you. What are some of the most exciting innovation in the animal health center that you believe could revolutionize the industry in the coming years?
All right. So I think the biggest issue we have in Nigeria is the animal health infrastructure. So it's poor. It's poor. So farmers don't get what they need. Then another issue is the issue of poverty. So an average farmer understands that I need 10 bags of feed in 1 week, but the farmer has money for just 1 bag. So look at it this way. The veterinary store serving that community also doesn't have capital because they are young vets like us. And I'll tell you the innovation that we've done. So the animal extension worker buys 50 bags because he doesn't have enough money to buy 2,000 bags or 100 bags. The farmer has money for 1 bag of feed. And feed is essential. If you're doing poultry production, once you miss or skip feed, everything, your production goes down and you lose money. So the farmer has money for 1 bag. The veterinary extension service has money for 50 bags and is serving 100 farmers. So this person comes to buy and they exhaust the stock. And because the veterinary extension service person also doesn't have more money, he waits to sell and pay the company, and then something happens to the truck. The truck gets bad and it delays 1 week. So the implication of that is that the vet extension shops will not have feed and the farmers will not have feed. The birds will be stressed. Disease condition comes. Mortality improves. Farmer loses their money. Livelihood bad. All on one single problem: infrastructure. So what we've been able to do is to build distribution centers. First of all, we encourage that because, it's also difficult to recover debt from farmers. So we tell farmers, bring your eggs, exchange it for feed if you don't have enough. So that solves issue of cash, right? So we can collect egg, you can aggregate eggs, aggregate their final product, and link them up to big off-takers. For the animal extension service shops that have a relationship with us. So if you're using us and it's up to 6 months, you don't need to pay. We'll understand your credit history. You can pay for 50 bags and we can give you 100. And we'll tell you once your stock is going, as long as you're not using the money for another thing, we will always replenish and ensure that you don't lose your inventory. That way, we're able to cover the infrastructure gap by aggregating and supplying. We supply to they don't come to us. They only place order and we supply them. We monitor their inventory level and we ensure that they have what they need to serve the farmers, and then they pay us back. And we also ensure that the farmer at whatever point in time have access to basic inputs as a farmer needs, and always. So that way we're able to solve the farmer's problem. We're able to solve the extension service agent's problem, and we're also getting happy and bigger. Last year, we did a sale of $2.4 million on this model. And this year we're about doubling that. So it's effective, it works, and we understand it very well. And we're very proud of that.
Thank you, Dr. Kayode. You not only spoke about the innovation that is required around infrastructure, but very, very beautifully you showed the entire scenario, where this is required, because farmers need cash. How you're solving for cash? How you're solving for infrastructure gaps, how you're solving for supply chain gaps. So that's really beautiful way of kind of depicting it, and looks very simple, but it's a complex problem. So, Dr. Kayode, in interest of time, we will have to wind up this very beautiful conversation. And as we wind up this conversation, first of all, I'd like to thank you on behalf of everyone for your insight, experience, all the advice that you have shared with us today. And we've learned so much about principles and foundations of co-creation from your journey and experience, which works. My last question to you is, what inspires you to do what you are doing continuously, and what advice you have for the learners regarding co-creation and partnerships as they begin their journeys?
All right, so I think what inspires me, so for some reason, this is weird, right? If I'm able to solve a problem, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm.
So will I be right to say problem inspires me? I'm not sure, because nobody wants problem, right?
And but you're passionate about animal care. You're also yeah.
So I think I feel very fulfilled going into a community, seeing their problem, and to be part of what eliminates the problem and brings something sustainable. If you don't pay me, I would do that for free. Fortunately, we are successful at that. And for my final advice, I will go back to my opening statement. Success is not self-made. No. So be confident in yourself. I'm very confident. But I cannot be an island. You're only solving a small problem being alone. So if you understand that, you will know you need people. People that are higher than you, way higher than you, people that are your colleagues, and people you're trying to help. And the best thing you could do to yourself, and it happens in organization, you have the CEO, and you have you and your colleagues, and you have people that are reporting to you. You're not an island. To cause systemic change in the entire organization, you need everybody. People that report to you, people that are your colleagues, and you will need the influence of the CEO. The best thing is for you to understand human nature. Understand their interests, understand what motivates them. We go to school to study technical things. We don't go to school to study humans. How far can you go not understanding another person? Very little. So pay attention. I think it was Steve Covey that said, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Once you invest a lot of time in understanding other people, your journey to co-creating has become way smoother than you can ever imagine. So don't be self-absorbed. Be interested in what other people know, what they think, what motivates them, and use that in the equation to bring everybody together to achieve a single or a common goal. Thank you. I think that's my final advice.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a beautiful advice. Focus and invest in understanding and not getting understood. I'm going to remember all of these quotes that you have shared today. Thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Kayode, and all the best for all the continued success and all the groundbreaking work that you're doing and all the expansion that you're doing. Every time I meet you, your organization is only growing. So we wish you all the best, and I'll continue to follow your work.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching this session today and participating in the discussion forum. Before we sign off, just a reminder that next week we will meet you all twice. On 15th November, Natalie and I will meet you at the office hours, which is a live and interaction session where we are going to learn from you about your learning journeys. On 16th November, Natalie is going to host the 5th webinar of the season with guest expert Mark Shang and continue the conversation around co-creation. Don't forget to submit your assignments this week. And thank you, and continue your active engagement in the discussion forum, for that allows you to learn collaboratively and productively. With that said, thanks once again for joining us, and we'll meet you soon.